Hey everybody, my name is Lee West and I'm your instructor for this summer quarter General Chemistry Prep, Chemistry 139. So Chemistry 139 is the prerequisite for the general chemistry sequence that is normally taken by STEM majors, so people studying science or engineering, and that general chemistry sequence serves as the prerequisite for the organic chemistry sequence. So this is really, if you want to think about it, the first in a series of 7 chemistry classes that we offer at Pierce. So this is really a major gateway class. Okay. So, as I mentioned, my name is Lee West. You can call me either Lee or Dr. West, I'm not too fast. I do have an office in the Library and Science building, office number 131 in that building. I have a work phone. You can phone me on this number and I'll get your message and that'll be forwarded to me via email. You can email me at my Pierce College email address. And then the other thing that I have is office hours every day of the week between 11:30 a.m. and 12:30 p.m. and they are via Zoom, and I'll provide details of that in our Canvas site. Now, every Wednesday at 3 o'clock, I have an additional session just for Chemistry 139 where I work through normally like questions and example tests and quizzes and things like that that are coming up that week. And so Wednesdays 3 p.m. for those sessions, and I'll record those sessions and post them to Canvas as well. We do have a textbook for the class. It's called Preparatory Chemistry, Introduction to General Chemistry Calculations and Concepts, and that's available free online, and I've posted the link for that on Canvas as well. You'll be needing a calculator, and it needs to be a scientific calculator. It can be either a physical calculator or it can be an emulator or a website that you use. Don't recommend using the calculator that's built into your phone. So the features that you really will want on that scientific calculator for this class are the capacity to enter scientific notation and also to perform logarithms. You'll need to purchase access to the ALEKS online system, and once you have purchased access to that system, you'll need to use this 10-character code in order to register for the correct course. Now, I've published to Canvas what they call a financial aid access code, and that'll give you 2 weeks free access to ALEKS. And then after that, or some point in that 2-week period, if you register, then that'll kind of like merge your account with the full account that you're going to purchase. Now, if you're thinking that you're not going to be able to afford access to ALEKS, make sure you contact me as soon as possible, and I can work with the college to get you funding, hopefully. So we have a pretty kind of like formulaic approach. We do kind of the same types of things most weeks. Every week you'll have to do a reading assignment, and you'll be assigned different sections of the book to read, and there'll also be videos that I make that go along with those sections. You'll review that material and you'll make notes on that material using the Cornell system. You'll create a PDF of your work and you'll upload that to Canvas. So you're probably familiar with making a PDF of written notes. You can use an app on your phone to do this. I like to use one called Chem Scanner, that's the one that I like to use. Now, it doesn't really matter, and you can use the free version of that. Please don't purchase one of these apps. There's plenty of free ones that will do just fine. But the important thing to do is, once you've made this PDF, make sure that your work is neat, it's organized, that you have everything as a single file. What we don't want is one file per page. That's not acceptable. The pages need to be in the correct order. They need to be oriented the correct way. We don't want pages upside down. Each of your sections should be clearly numbered. The other thing that's important is that when you make one of these PDFs, you should make sure that you've used sufficient resolution that the work is legible. It shouldn't be so faint that it can't be read, because I am going to read these and I'll need to be able to clearly see what's going on in order to give you a good grade. So always have a good look at your PDF before you upload it, is really what I'm getting at, and make sure that it's kind of like sensibly put together. Every week we'll also have ALEX objectives, and so these are questions that you complete within the ALEX program. Those assignments are graded only for completion, and you can attempt each question as many times as you like. So that's kind of like a good thing and a bad thing, because what it means is if you're not very well prepared, you can waste a lot of time. So, don't really kind of begin the topics unless you're kind of confident that you understand the material. Because what you have to do in ALEX is you have to complete 5 questions correctly in a row. And so if you get 2 in a row correct, you actually get double credit, right? But if you get one wrong, if you get this one wrong, what it'll do is it'll set you back 1. Okay, so you can kind of like go around and around in circles in ALEX if you really don't know what's going on. So it's easy, because if you know what's going on, you can get to your end of your topic just by answering 3 questions correctly and getting your bonus points, right? But if you don't know what's going on, you'll just bounce backwards and forwards. So what I recommend you do when it comes to ALEX objectives is every week identify the number of topics that you have to complete, divide that by 5, because most of us don't want to be working on chemistry 7 days a week, and make sure you complete that many problems every day as a minimum. And probably the biggest single mistake that I see people make in this class is that they'll leave everything till the last day or to the due date, and then they try and answer it all in one go. And of course what that does is it doesn't leave any time to get help. Right? So if you do a little bit every day and you hit a roadblock, you can kind of come to office hours the next day, or hook up with the tutors via Zoom, or get supplementary instruction in some other way, get over that hurdle and keep going. So doing a little bit every day is really, really important. Of course, the other thing that's great about doing a little bit every day is that if you're kind of like just grinding through things Monday through Thursday, just great, and then all hell breaks loose in your life on Friday, you don't get 0 for the assignment, right? But if you leave everything till Friday and then something goes wrong on Friday, then you're hosed. So keep that in mind. Now, week 1 is quite significant. There are a lot of little topics, right? So there's almost around 30 topics that you have to do for week 1. So keep that in mind, that week 1 is kind of a pretty busy week. Now, I should also warn you that when you first begin in ALEX, the very first thing that it's going to ask you to do is this thing called an initial knowledge check, where ALEX just tries to get a feel for what you already know about science, math, chemistry, right? And that's kind of just allows it to calibrate. Now, the initial knowledge check is not for points, but it does consume a reasonable amount of time. It might take you about 40 minutes to an hour to get through the initial knowledge check, and you need to schedule that in, because you won't be able to get going on your 30 topics until you've done that. Now, a little word of advice about the initial knowledge check: it's worth trying, but not getting too stressed about it. So it's kind of like just like a placement test. There are no consequences as far as your grade in the class is concerned if you just check that you don't know the answer to all of the problems. What it will do is place you within the ALEX system at too low a level if you do that, right? Now, if you try hard in the initial knowledge check and you kind of actually, you put a little bit of effort in, then it'll kind of bump you forward a little bit, and you'll get less homework problems to do each week, because the system will be well calibrated for where you're truly at. A couple of times in the quarter we have some short quizzes that are given through ALEX. When you do these quizzes, what I want you to do is to create a set of notes that show how you arrived at each answer, and turn that into a PDF and upload it to Canvas. So you don't just enter your answers into Alex, you also produce a document that shows your work for each problem and shows your reasoning for each problem, just like you would for a normal quiz if you were taking it in class. Now this document needs to be uploaded within 15 minutes of submitting your work to Alex, all right? And it should be neat, and it should be organized, and the questions should be clearly labeled. In addition to quizzes, when we don't have a quiz, we'll have either a test or a case study. So what case studies are, these are problem sets focused on a particular real-world scenario. You'll work through the case study, and then you'll upload your work as a PDF to Canvas. And again, your work should be organized and neat when you upload it. Okay. So we'll have 3 tests, and tests are kind of like, longer quizzes that cover more than a week's worth of content. Normally they cover 2 weeks worth of content. So 3 of them over the 7 weeks of the quarter kind of makes sense, doesn't it, right? So again, what you'll do is you'll create a document that you'll upload as a PDF that shows how you arrived at each of your answers. And this should be like, well organized. Each question should be clearly numbered, and I should be able to follow your thinking. So that document needs to be submitted again within 15 minutes of submitting your answers to Alex. Okay. Now at the end of the quarter, in the last week of the quarter, on the Wednesday of that last week, you'll have your final exam, and that also will be given through the Alex system. And this will cover the entire quarter's work. Again, you're going to create a document as a PDF that shows how you arrived at each of your answers, and upload that to Canvas within 15 minutes of submitting your answers to Alex. Okay, so we've talked about all of the different types of assignments. Every week you'll have a reading assignment to do, and then you'll have either a quiz, a case study, or a test. At the very end of the quarter, there's a final exam that covers the whole quarter's worth of work. So that was a lot of text, but putting it into a diagram, it kind of looks like this, right? The first part of the week is expected to be studying the content, which means watching the videos that I make and reading the textbook and making notes on it. And you get rewarded for doing that. By Tuesday midnight, you need to get in Cornell notes that show that you actually did study the content. The middle part of the week, you practice applying that content, and by this we're not going to do labs for Chemistry 139. This for us means that we're going to be completing Alex objectives. These just get graded on completion because you're just practicing the content, right? Okay. Now, at the end of the week, what do? We have to show that we've learned something, or we have to show that we can actually perform, tasks related to the content. So this is where your quizzes, case studies, and tests come in. And so these are timed activities where you're demonstrating to me what you have learned. All right, so pretty heavily leans towards tests and the final, worth 50% of your grade. And then obviously these things here, you just graded on completion most of the time, so they're not worth as many points. So what can I say as far as, key to success? I would say the key to success here is, now let me have a look at this, 25, 75, and these points don't quite line up, do they? So check the syllabus for the correct numbers there. Something's not quite right. Anyway, just noticed that as I was looking at this. But I'm getting sidetracked there. The key to success for this class is doing a little bit of work every day and having a plan for the week. And in particular, if you have a week where you've got a couple of days where you're going to be busy with something else, then you need to plan accordingly. And your plan can't be beg the professor for an extension. Your plan needs to be manage my time so that these other activities don't interfere with what needs to be done as far as my work is concerned, right? Does that make sense? So that's really, really important. I know that on August 13th, 14th, and 15th, I'm going to be busy, and I've planned accordingly. And so you should be doing the same, right? Does that make sense? So keep that in mind, and you should be doing that like every quarter while you're at college, because you've got to keep this up for a couple of years. All right, guys. So hope that all makes sense, and I'm looking forward to getting started on this with you guys.